Hey Peculiars, I'm Amanda, the Peculiar Brunette. If it's your first time here, I talk about nature spirituality, intentional living, and journaling / crafting. I also have a Magical Monday newsletter that I send out every Monday, obviously, so that you can stay updated on anything that I've done currently. So either here on the YouTube channel or on my blog. I also send out things that help keep you inspired with the season. So recently it was the spring equinox. And so I not only sent out a roundup of things that I've written about that would help you celebrate the spring equinox, but also I did a roundup of things that some other people had done and some gardening inspiration and like quotes. So if you would like to always stay updated on that, I'll put a link down below so you make sure and sign up. So you might notice that today's video is a little bit different than the format I usually do. I really like watching other YouTubers do vlogs, and so I thought I might start trying to do that here on my channel as well. The crafting videos are really fun to make, but they're really time consuming and can sometimes take me like 4 or 5 days just to make one. And since I also spend a lot of time doing the blogging, it's really hard for me to balance both of those and to put out videos as often as I do blog posts. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to do the vlogs. I also have been noticing, so like I was talking about earlier, here on this channel I talk about nature, spirituality, and intentional living. And when you start looking back at my videos, you'll notice that I don't really have anything on intentional living. And one of the reasons why I don't do that is because I kind of feel like I have imposter syndrome a little bit when it comes to intentional living. And I think a lot of people think, when they think of intentional living, they think of almost like productive living and how to be the most productive to have the best life. And that's definitely not something that I am knowledgeable in. So I wanted to have the blank wall back here today because I know it's like a really boring background. It's like, who wants to look at my fridge? Oh, there's this super cute picture of my sister. I also wanted to kind of talk about a blank slate and starting over, and basically how I'm trying to do that more in my intentional living journey. And the reason I don't really talk about it is because I still feel like I'm on that journey. I don't feel like I'm an expert in it. But the more I think about it, like, I don't know if I would ever be an expert in it. I don't know if anybody would ever be an expert in it. Because to be honest with you, I just think most people don't know what they're doing. None of us do, and that's okay. One of the things I wanted to talk about is what I call wearing the mask. So I think when we're young and we're growing up, we're just our natural selves. And we get told things that like, we're too loud, or that, you know, we're too quiet, or that we need to be different than who we authentically are. And sometimes that can be a good thing. Sometimes it's good to learn and grow. But a lot of times it's more in a dismissive way. And so you think, oh, well, who I am naturally isn't good enough, so I need to be this other person. And as we get older, you know, and I think you choose career paths, you're maybe interested in something like music or art or entrepreneurship. And you get told that you shouldn't do that because that's not realistic and that's not going to make you a lot of money, and you need to do this path. Like, I know I got really hooked into that because I heard a lot of adults around me saying things like, oh man, when I was young, if I had just listened to my parents or I had just listened to my teachers, I would be so much further along than I currently am. And so I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to listen to my parents. I'm going to listen to my teachers. I'm going to listen to adults, and what they say is the right thing to do, and I'm going to do that. And so I was really interested in music when I was younger, and I was in the a cappella choir, and I basically was just told over and over that like going to college for music was a waste of time and you can't make a lot of money. And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, when you go for music, like, you know, it's basically you're going to be the next, like, you know, Britney Spears or Rihanna or something, or you're going to be like a DJ. And those are the only options. But the thing is when you get in there and you're doing the stuff that you love, you find all kinds of different opportunities when you're working with other people who also love those things. And so I went down a path where I just totally abandoned those ideas because that wasn't going to make me any money. I always loved photography, not realistic. Being a photographer is not a realistic opportunity because you're not going to make a lot of money, yada, yada. And so I can only speak for myself and not other people, but I started along a path of doing things that I thought I should do and working at jobs that I thought were like respectable jobs. Like I worked at a bank for a long time. Most of my career was in a bank. And what happens is when you go to these places, they have expectations of how you should act, in professional ways, especially when you're customer facing. And it doesn't matter if you had a sad day or you have something big going on in your life, or if you don't even like your job, you have to act and be a certain way. And so for me, I always called it putting on the mask. So before I would go into this job, I would put on somebody else, somebody else's expectations of me, somebody else of how I have to act. And I, over the years, have gotten to this point. It was about the time I turned 30. I just was so sad. I don't know how else to explain it. Just sad, unmotivated. I've always been kind of like a Hermione type where I'm like an overachiever, always trying to overachieve anyways. And I measured my own worth based off of my productivity levels. And when I hit 30, I just started realizing that I had been living other people's expectations for me and not my own expectations. And I was really unhappy and I didn't really know how to proceed. About that time, I started reading the Marie Kondo's book, The Magic of Tidying. And I also read Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover book. And those two books really changed my perspectives on how I could live. I had only seen certain ideals of what life was supposed to be like, and they completely changed my perspectives. And then 2 years after that, I think it was about 2017, I saw the documentary, the minimalism documentary. And not only did I start following the minimalists and listening to their podcasts, but the creator, Matt D'Avella, I also started watching some of his YouTube videos, the guy that did the videography for it. And it was just really life-changing. And so what happened was I really embraced it. And same thing, Dave Ramsey, we were almost debt-free because of that. I still have my student loans. But it changed my life and the level of stress. I no longer felt like I had to go to work to pay all of these bills, where I was being crushed by it. And with Marie Kondo and combined with the minimalism, I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't have to carry around all the stuff that other people gave me, or things that I've been holding on to, like a person that I was before that I wasn't anymore, but I was holding on to her I needed to do this. And I felt this immense guilt from holding on to these, from letting go of those items, because then I had failed for some reason, that I didn't become that person. But I had grown out of that person. I didn't want to be that person anymore. So I don't know why I would hold on to these things. And so now I've gotten to this place where I got rid of all the stuff that I've gotten rid of all the stuff I don't need, or all of the stuff that I don't want in my life. And then I've just spent the last couple of years being there, and living like that. If you look, in most of the places in my house, there's one piece of artwork up. It's actually a picture of me and my husband on our wedding day. You don't see any other art up on the walls. Most of my walls are white like this. You might have seen the video I did recently where I did my creative space. That's probably the most decorated spot in the house. And the reason I did that, and stayed that way is because I just wanted to have that time where I just kind of started figuring out who I am. And so this year I turned 35, and I made a resolution to myself that I would start living the life that I want, that I would start trying things and doing things that I always wanted to do. And so I just started making a big like bucket list of things that I always wanted to do. And I'm not talking about places to travel. I'm talking more about things like, you know, I wanted to learn how to watercolor, or books I wanted to read, or canning. Canning was a really big one. And so my resolution to myself this year is to start doing the shit that I want to do, being who I want to be. And I thought it would be really cool to document that here for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's a really good way to hold myself accountable. If I'm saying that I'm going to do it and then I don't do it, that's embarrassing. And I know that that will work for me, that I'll start doing that stuff because I said I was going to do it. And another thing is I think it maybe could be really inspiring for other people who have felt the same way that I feel and are maybe scared to take the first step, or don't know, or can just laugh at me being ridiculous and trying to learn something that I don't know, and maybe give you a little bit of confidence, like, oh, I watched her totally make an idiot of herself, like maybe it would be okay if I tried it too. And then the third reason is because I think it'll be interesting to look back on and see how far that I have come. And here we are into March, and I haven't done much. I think the only thing I've done as far as my goals on that is I started using a cast iron to cook with, but I've really been enjoying it. And that's pretty much it. I have not really done anything else, and I just really don't want this opportunity to slip by. I made a huge bucket list, and I want to start taking some of those things off. So that was my long story. That was my whole spiel. But I would really love to hear what you guys think. If you guys want to comment down below and tell me something that you've always wanted to do and you've just never done it, and why? Like, were you scared? Were you afraid to be, like, look silly doing it? Did maybe somebody at one point tell you that you couldn't do it and so you feel like you can't? Because I'm really interested to know, because I think a lot of people do this even though we don't talk about it that often. And that'll be the beginning of the Intentional Living series. So I hope you like it. Let me know if this is something that you're excited about, or something if you're like, whatever, stick to what you're doing with the crafting. That's cool too. So let me know, okay? Thanks, guys.